5.
Welcome, students, to Monk Meditation, the show about monks in the world of Warcraft.
6.1 is finally here, and we're going to recap what it means for you. We're joined by Calligraphy and Supercat to help you decipher logs to improve. Coming up on Monk Meditation, episode 42.
Here's your host, Chai T.
Hello everyone, this is Chai T from Airy Peak, US, host of the Great Monk Meditation, or at least I think it is. This is a show all about monks in the world of Warcraft, in case you missed the intro. I'm joined today by 3 lovely co-hosts, and 2 of them guests, both of them returning, both of them awesome. Let's go right to it. Let's check in with tonight's hosts on how WoW is now in
Storm, Earth,
and fire!
Daikatsu. Sir, how you doing?
I'm glad you think I'm lovely, that's for sure. WoW is actually, see, LeBlue says I'm the prettiest co-host, so there you go.
Uh-huh.
So WoW is actually going pretty well. Boats and Hosen got 8 out of 10 heroic this past week.
Well done.
After handling the ferocious Iron Maidens. Get it? F-E? Well, Iron, well, I guess it's better if it's written down. But we also beat Chromeg, but we couldn't figure out where to separate the head from the body. There's no neck.
So you can't get the head? No head?
Where does the head stop?
I don't know.
You think you hit shoulders? No, more chin.
All right, well, Rolling Thunder is gearing up some new recruits. We're up to 3 of 10 normal, and we're going to focus in on Blackrock Foundry for now. It's time to get some sweet tier gear, hopefully. Need that 4-piece. Rectified, my team on Saturday, we've moved to 3 of 10 heroic, and we're slamming our face against Flamebinder. Those wolves, man. That breath hurts. It stings. It burns, actually. So, all right, and we're joined today by our co-host, returning, Calligraphy. How's it going?
Hey! Pretty good.
How's WoW going
sitting
for you?
here working from home. It's the good life. An alt raid tonight, in which case my monk that isn't a monk is going to hopefully get some pieces.
Whose name shall not be named.
Who, Wingdings?
Ah!
At least it's not Comic Sans.
Yeah.
Comic Sans is my death knight.
I do that.
All right, and going to our returning co-host as well, Supercat from Ask Mr. Robot. How's it going?
Good. Tonight our team is actually trying to get Flamebender down on Heroic. We also have 3 of 10. And it's okay for me to miss today's raid because last week I finally upgraded my 640 weapon. I've tried everything. And there gets a point where you can't get the crafted weapon because you've just waited so long. You're like, well, I'm going to get it and then my item's going to drop. But I finally got the weapon off of Gruul. So, now that I have the gear, I don't really need to raid. So they're fine without me tonight.
Yeah, for me, it's like for my Mistweaver, I just went straight to the crafted because I have a history with weapons. It is not a good history. And I knew it's from the last boss of Heimal, so I'm like, yeah, that's not going to drop. And guess what? It hasn't dropped, so I made the smart
I should have gone your route. I should have gone your route because I would have gotten a lot of use out of that crafted weapon.
Yeah,
the staff. Yeah, because I'm a healer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Isn't that staff have
And
mastery?
apparently I just stopped the show dead.
Yep. That staff has mastery, though, doesn't it?
I don't know. I'd have to look. I was
Burn
just
it
so
with
excited
fire.
and I equipped it.
Burn it with
Mr. Robot
fire.
said it was like, yeah, Mr. Robot told me it was a 10% upgrade. I'm like, I will take it. But I'm a druid. But druids still go after what haste I think is our best stat. So.
Oh, okay, well, all right. You're not a Mistweaver, so all right, we'll let you get off with that. All right, well, it's time to get caught up in the crazy whirlwind of our news, and boy, do we have a lot of it in
Dizzying Haze.
So, guess what launches tomorrow?
I heard it's a patch.
Yeah, there's a patch for Final Fantasy XIV.
Awesome.
All right.
Sweet.
Can't
We've
wait
been
to go
waiting.
Yep. So 6.1 is dropping tomorrow for World of Warcraft. Odd that we're talking about that. So here's a brief overview of what you can expect for your monk, because we've gone over these before, but just to remind you. So generally your crafted pieces, like my staff, can be upgraded in another tier. Your Apexis Crystal gear can also be upgraded in another tier. So Chi Burst damage. A lot of this focus of 6.1 has been on talents, bringing them up to supposed parity, though I think we have some concerns about that. But Chi Burst has been buffed. Chi Torpedo damage and healing has been buffed. Ring of Peace I am incapacitated in my mouth right now. Incapacitation time has been buffed. Zen Sphere has been changed. Damage and healing buffed, but moved mostly to the detonation. Windwalkers. Callie, I think there's some cause for celebration.
I have dubbed this like my belated birthday present, basically. Well, technically it's actually, I calculated it to be about like a 2 to 3% Eminence healing buff for Mistweaver. I could be wrong. I don't do a lot of the math. Geodu can correct me on that. But for Windwalker, it's about a 6.7 increase, in addition to which they announced that they're probably going to do a hotfix for Tiger Strikes, which I don't know how much of an increase that's going to be, considering that SimC had it implemented correctly, whereas the game didn't. So we'll see how much of an increase that is. Yeah,
so the Glyph of Blackout Kick, that is finally coming back, and it's a reminder for what people... man, I cannot talk tonight. Reminder to people of what that does is if you hit them from the front, it still gives you the dot instead of healing you. So, which is really nice on most of the fights where everything moves.
They went through every single ability and got rid of, oh, well, if you need to be behind the guy, you can now do it in front, because they didn't want another situation like, what's the hands do it in Old War, where the rogues are like, I'm useless.
Yeah.
Ultraxian,
Ultraxian.
Yeah, all of those. And then they forgot about Blackout Kick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they just decided to add one in because they accidentally deleted it, even though the moment it disappeared, we're like, hey, wait, what? No.
And it was in beta, and then they forgot to come back in, and yeah, fun times.
Just do a diff between the code, figure out the code that says this equals Blackout Kick, copy, paste, compile.
What are you guys on, PVCS? SVN?
No, it's Phil down the hall. He keeps everything on a hard copy.
It's on a tape.
It's on a floppy disk.
Have you seen the WoW server code? It's aisle 7.
All right, so in addition, Windwalkers also are getting a buff to Hurricane Strike. However, there's a giant caveat that we found out this week.
Oops.
Yep. Duke, you want to go over that?
Yeah, so the ability reads that it hits targets around the monk, but it turns out it should actually say hits target around the monk, because it's not really an AoE. It just picks one random person within your range and then smacks them around 12 different times. So now that we know what the ability actually does, it might actually be a decent ability to use from time to time.
Though Callie and I were talking before the show, and we can't really find a valid use for this. The only one I can think of is Flamebinder on the Wolf if you need it, but as Callie said, there are better people out there to handle it.
It is, and the other problem is random targets. If it was your target, then we would probably use it for Blast Furnace, for Phase 2 for blasting down things, even though Chi Explosion likely would still be better there. But random targets, you're never going to be able to use it until it's your target, sadly, or it's single target fight.
Or it actually does what it says and hits like 12 different targets. That would be nice too.
Yeah, having the tooltip plural is a little strange.
So here's a question. If you have Storm, Earth, and Fire, does each one of them pick a random target, or does it hit the same random target?
Oh, God. So, in other words, it's press button to do 60% damage?
Right.
Yeah.
God. So, it's been buffed, but apparently not enough. So, still kind of the...
it's the redheaded stepchild of that tier.
Yeah, I was trying to find another analogy to that, but Have at it. Okay. So here is the other big thing that happened, and this one we haven't talked about because it just happened this last week. Rising Sun Kick. The debuff that has been broken from 15% down to 10 is now 20. So
Rather from 20 to 15 to 10 to 20.
right.
So we're right back where we started, except we still have the stance nerf.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. So now every time
Good
you
job.
Rising Sun Kick, every target around your area in the area will get a debuff that will increase damage from all of their monk abilities by 20% up from what was currently 10, which was 15, which was 20. So back to where we are. Now, the sims have came out that indicated we're now up to, on single target fights, around 3rd place. Is that accurate? 3rd place with a 2-hander and 4th place with 1-hander.
Something like that.
Right. And so this is already taking into account the change that we're going to go over with the Tiger Strikes. So we're in a better place now, at least. So we'll see. I think our biggest weakness so far as a Windwalker is the AoE situations. Mainly burst AoE is our bane right now. And
Hey, look, a lot
that's-
of tiny, weak mobs coming out of a boss. We'll let the rogue and the shaman handle it.
Right, and unfortunately, that is a majority of Blackrock Foundry. So, all right, so let's go over Brewmaster. Keg Smash damage has been reduced by 80%. No, by 20%. I don't know who wrote this.
Keg Smash has been nerfed by 80%.
No.
Awesome writing, Lulu.
Thanks. Lulu.
Awesome writing.
Yeah, it's been reduced by 20% to compensate for the Tiger Strike fix. And Labu says, "Don't worry, I know this looks bad, but I think we'll find a way to survive."
Yeah, I think we were talking about this earlier in GroupMe, and now instead of being the most amazing survival tank with over-the-top DPS, we're now the most amazing survival tank with awesome DPS.
Right.
Definitely we're like, forget it, reroll Rogue.
Hey, at least we had something to talk about, because my original line in here was, "You get nothing, shut up. You're good enough." But now they actually got a nerf, so there's that.
I think they might actually prefer that.
Right. But apparently you guys get a button that lights up now anytime you're at 15 stacks of Tiger Eye Brew, so there's...
Yes.
Elusive Blue.
Elusive Brew.
Elusive Brew. God, I give up.
Elusive Blue. He's not here anymore. That's... All right, guys, I'm taking over.
All right, and so he says... LeBlue says, "We are fair and balanced until they find a way to tone down the spec on the higher end without hurting the lower end of the spectrum. That's still relatively squishy compared to other tanks, even with the buffs, if played poorly. Alternative encounters can also be designed with more frequent magic hits. Abilities are only partially affected by stagger, or other tanks' mitigation is brought up in such a way to match and or work on all active mitigation mechanics, i.e. able to block the physical portion of Inferno Slice off a Gruul or Slam from Chromag. Until then, enjoy as much or more stagger than you did back in Siege of Orgrimmar before being in the best gear of the first tier." Yep. All right, Mistweavers. This is the fun stuff. I think Mistweavers have gotten the most change. Windwalkers have gotten a lot of buffs, but Mistweavers getting the most change. Monity. This change tomorrow, if you have low spirit, just go ahead and just jump in the Monity Lake because you're going to need it. It's now based on your spirit rather than a base percentage returned. So this is going to really hurt you on the low end and really be awesome on the high end. Ascension is now going to increase spirit rather than base mana. It's going to give you a 10% 10% spirit increase. Now, at the lower end of your gear, that's not going to give you much of a buff. At the higher end, that's going to give you a huge buff. So you're going to want to pay attention to that and play around with it. Ascension is actually now a possible viable talent. Imagine that. Breath of the Serpent output has been significantly buffed. Possible uses for this that I've seen, and I asked this question on the final boss. God, the final boss TV to the Mistweavers. I haven't had a chance to watch this, so I don't know if it got asked. But I wanted to see possible uses for this. The ones I see: Flamebinder, Gruul, Orgorger, and Brackenspore. Those are the 4 major where they might output more than Pool of Mists. But I'm sure other people have strong opinions about that. Chi Explosion. This one is huge. Chi Explosion healing has been buffed in Serpent Stance, but nerfed in Crane Stance, and is now usable while casting Soothing Mist in Serpent. So this is pretty big. So now we can go up to 4 Chi and hit Chi Explosion without interrupting our Soothing Mist cast, which is really nice. And Rising Sun Kick also buffed from Mistweaver, so we're getting the same 20% increase, which is going to really help. Be nice for Eminence. Okay. Now, Callie mentioned this before. Tiger Strikes. This came out today, indicating this was a bug.
Like literally about an hour ago.
Right. So this is not going to be in time for 6.1, but it's going to be released in a hotfix shortly after. So as Kelly said, Tiger Strikes was incorrectly triggering from unsuccessful auto attacks. So if you missed, were blocked, parried, anything like that, it was still counting and possible trigger for Tiger Strikes. So that's good, but it was not triggering from multi-strikes, which is kind of the whole friggin' point of our multi-strike. So that's going to be fixed. This fix is going to severely increase our damage for Windwalker and Mistweaver. They've decided, even with the Rising Sun Kick buff, they're not going to make any additional adjustments, but their wording left it way open for them to nerf the crap out of us in a couple of days. So look out for that. Brewmasters, they decided, yeah, well, you're not getting too much benefit off of this additional multi-strike, but you're already pretty strong, so we're going to nerf you again. So there's your 20% nerf to the damage of Kick Smash. Any comments on that? Nope.
Well, we have a question in the dojo. So with the Manatee change, about how much spirit will you need in order to overtake what you currently get from Manatee? What's that number right now?
Trying to remember. I had that math a few episodes ago. Look for the one where we had Monkey-O on. That episode we had the numbers specifically. But it's something like 1,600, I'm thinking off the top of my head. 1,600 spirit will be exactly equal to what we are now. So I don't know if that's going to... how easy that is going to obtain. I think it came out to, if you have best in slot, normal Blackrock Foundry is when you hit that mark. So Geodude has put out stat weights for in taking this in consideration, and Spirit is now ridiculously high, like 2.34. So
sorry, we just got handed an update on the Tiger Strike thing.
Oh.
And lore has apparently updated that Tiger Strikes for Mistweavers has been using incorrectly the lower dual wield proc chance when Mistweavers were equipping a one-handed item in conjunction with offhand items. They'll be fixing that too.
So we're getting even more of a buff.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, so you'll get the full 10% chance while in Crane Stance when the hotfixes go live.
If you're using one hand, but it was fine on two hand.
Yes.
Okay.
They've also discovered that the tooltip for Tiger Strikes is incorrectly stating that the chance for it to activate is 6.25% while dual wielding. The actual chance is 5%, and that has been active the whole time. So the tooltip will be updated in a future patch.
Well, the tooltips always... It's like... They must have the tooltips on a separate, like, country or something. Because they can never update that.
The tooltips speak Farsi, and the other ones speak Persian, and no one knows what they're saying. And I believe those are both the same language.
They are.
Hablo español. Eso es lo único que conozco.
Okay, yeah. All right. So, let's see here. Okay, there was a tweet that went out from @TheZer asking, is it a bug that Windwalker clones stand still during Fists of Fury while using the glyph Floating Butterfly? And this came up with an interesting conversation on Twitter, didn't it, Callie?
Yes, the Fist of Fury stuff.
Yes.
So we had tested it out originally with like scrolling battle text. I'm like, oh yeah, it's still hitting with the pet, and the boss is like 5 miles away. Okay, it must have unlimited range. I talked to other ones like, oh yeah, it totally has unlimited range and things like that. And then suddenly, oh no, it never has. So going through logs, it's like, okay, it missed like 1 tick, 2 ticks. Not terribly many still, but even so, it's like, okay, so can we just remove Storm, Earth, and Fire at this point? Because it's kind of a pain in the neck to use. This even leads into the Chi Torpedo buff that we're getting, is that it's going to nerf the damage from Chi Torpedo, but at this point on PTR it doesn't copy it. So can we just get Blade Flurry? Is that too much to ask?
See, I love the thematics of Storm, Earth, and Fire, but in practice, it's still better than
nice
it was
when it works.
Yeah, it's still better than it was in Siege. It goes out quickly off the GCD. It's nice, but
yeah, but
it's
now
nice.
you have to
Flavor.
kind of time it around when your clone's targets are standing still.
Yep.
so now
Because
have
you
to
can move
keep-
around. It's like, hey, my target's running all over the place, no problem. My glyph floating butterfly, I'll move everywhere. Your clone on the other side is just going, I'm punching the air!
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah,
it's-
and like I said, it's going to be even more fun with Chi Torpedo and canceling Storm, Earth, and Fire every 8 seconds just to try to min-max that. And in other words, I'm going to be raiding with a lot of Advil and Excedrin.
But yeah, I think overall it would explain, I mean, basically the difference between you and your clone doing Fist of Fury damage could be as much as a third of your damage is missing.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, and I think this has major repercussions in Beast Lord Darmac, which is the target of R.
Fists of Fury. It's go time.
Hey, that's kind of funny. All right.
That's a little bit applicable.
Yeah. All right, so today on the chopping block is Beast Lord Darmac, and this is one of what should be one of our strongest fights, but it's not. So
Nope.
let's figure out why. So let's help you guys get a little bit better, rank a little bit better, and see what we can do. So Transcendence. I'm going to bring this one up first, and this is one that we bring up every single fight. Use this talent, love it, or not even a talent, just use this ability and love it, because this can really help you on Stampede to help you avoid getting hit twice. Because don't you love that when you get knocked up in the air and you're right about to land, you get knocked back the other way? Super fun. If you have a clone down, when you get knocked up in the air, you just pop right back in. You don't have to worry about it. So keep one up, use it, love it. So talent choices for all monks, maybe not Brewmaster, but even then, Diffuse Magic. This is an obvious choice for the fire phase. Just be very, very careful to know that you're out of the fire breath area before popping it, as he does do the fire breath 3 times. It sucks. You get 2 of them, you think you're out of the way, you hit it, and then you get that 3rd stack, and GG.
Honestly, no one should have more than one because there's a very significant pause. He does his fire breath, and then he sits there and goes, I think everyone ran clear. Doing my second one, boss. And, I mean, you have forever between the first and second breath. You should say, hey, there's fire. I should perhaps not be in this general area in the future.
Yeah. But I made the mistake one time of hitting Revival after the first one and expecting my Raiders to get out of the way. Yeah. I'll just leave it there.
Just wait for it until the Druid's casting Tranquility, and then you Revival.
Of course. That's standard issue. That's part of the monk contract.
I have it on. I have a weak aura specifically for that. Druid is casting Transcendence, hit Revival.
Yep.
Tranquility.
That
Exactly
too.
what I do whenever I spec into Mistweaver.
All right, let's talk Brewmaster. We don't have LeBlue here, but he has added some lovely notes for us. So, you can use Dave, our wonderful Black Ox statue, to gain initial aggro on the ads to prevent them from wandering off and attacking random people like your Mistweavers. To supplement Dave, you can make a very simple macro to taunt the ads to you without actually losing your target. The macro will cause all of the ads attacking the statue to come running towards you. You should already have this as a macro, but if you don't, it's hashtag show tooltip provoke / target Black Ox statue / cast provoke / target last target. You don't even have to target your statue. It does it all automatically, taunts everything there, over to you. It's perfect. So it's very tempting to try to roll away from that rend and tear so you don't get that stacking debuff. But this is usually going to cause the debuff to either end up on a melee or your co-tank who may be dropping the stacks. It doesn't hurt too badly due to stagger, so you might as well just take it and let it tickle you a little bit. Now,
Also, there's nothing melee hurts more than trying to run away from rend and tear, and then suddenly the tank is there like, sup guys? You didn't know I was coming to this spot, did you?
It's great. All right, and Touch of Death. use this to help finish off beasts. If you're not using the glyph, you can use it on every beast to help kill it quickly. So, and since you are a stamina whore, you can do a lot of damage with that. So, talent choices. Level 90. Rushing Jade Wind has very good use here for its consistent AoE threat and damage for helping clear out the pack beast adds. Alternatively, if your group is simply clearing them out incredibly quick, it's also viable to use Zwen to help push beasts even faster. At level 100...
Let me just interject here,
Yes.
especially for Windwalkers. Technically, taking Rushing Jade Wind is a little bit scumbagging. If your group is struggling with it, go with Kenny the Tiger. He scoots around a bit, but he's actually a lot better for boss damage anyway. Go ahead.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, but for Brewmaster, it's good to just get a little bit of initial threat.
Yeah,
So-
it's definitely good for Brewmaster.
Right. So, a note on Serenity for Brewmaster, it's worth using Breath of Fire on the pack beasts if most of the beasts are alive long enough for the full duration of the dot. So if your team isn't taking them out very long, go ahead and pop that in when you're using Serenity. It's pretty good. For level 75, as I mentioned, Diffuse Magic there, good for all around, but usually the blue takes Healing Elixirs as there's really nothing too crazy requiring an extra large cooldown. So let's talk Windwalkers. Duke, take it away.
So, Storm, Earth, and Fire is really going to be of limited use on this fight because pack beasts don't stay up long enough. They're especially if you have a rogue, a shaman, hell, a mage in your group, they're going to go down real quick. But you can use Storm, Earth, and Fire to help out on spears. And that can really help you out a lot, especially if your team is kind of single-mindedly focused on must kill the boss at all costs, standing in the fire is good. Two things that you can do there. If you do want to do Storm, Earth, and Fire on the pack beast, take Rushing Jade Wind. It's really good on this fight because there's going to be a lot of chances for you to hit a lot around it. And generally on this fight, Rushing Jade Wind is easily my number1 source of damage for the entire fight. For the spears, it's not very good. Just try and hit, either a Chi Explosion or something like that. Put a couple of dots on them and they'll go away. For Fist of...
I'm going to
okay,
interject
rebuttal
there.
time.
Yes. So, this was my initial thought as well. I went in with Rushing Jade Wind, and I noticed my numbers were significantly lower than I had anticipated. This really depends a lot on your team makeup, because if the ads are going down super quick, like they were for me, Rushing Jade Wind is something to avoid like the plague. Zuen is going to do so much extra damage here because your main focus is the damage on Darmac. Now, Zuen also does a lot of AoE damage as well. That Crackling Tiger Lightning does a lot of AoE damage. So Rushing Jade Wind is only useful for portions of the fight, and especially now since they nerfed how many of those beast packs come out, it's not quite as useful as it was. And so, Callie, what do you think?
I personally go Rushing Jade Wind for our heroic runs because I'm a scumbag and it's the only time I get to have fun. And frankly, Rushing Jade Wind is absolutely one of my most favorite spells in the entire game. So, I mean, if you're not struggling with it, like I said earlier, go Rushing Jade Wind. But if it's considered progression for you, go to Kenny the Tiger. Just summon him, time him with a pack beast. They come out all the time. For your SEF, I would actually say that the spears are a little bit more useful, especially if you're not in Rushing Jade Wind. Simply because whenever we did it for us as progression on Mythic, I was actually like #1 on boss damage and #3 behind Boomkins who are getting nerfed to the ground on spear damage. In fact, whenever I was pulled out, they noticed, hey, we actually need to increase our spear damage because Callie was doing a lot of it.
Right.
So, and as far as it goes, I mean, if you do go Zuen, you can still use Spinning Crane Kick. I do just a scumbag.
Yeah.
You can only keep a DPS from scumbagging so much.
Right. Yeah, it's the problem with the beast packs are the ramp up time of Storm, Earth, and Fire. You need to get your Tiger Palm out there, you need to get Rising Sun Kick, and then you're Rushing Jade Wind, and by that time they're dead. So
exactly.
This is a rough fight because of that situation that you really need that. So anyways, I interrupted you, Duke. Please, by all means.
So, our other lovely ability, Fist of Fury. tanks seem to come in two different manners at this fight. One of them says, hey, the boss is over there. I've got pack peace. I'm going to go run and visit Orgorger. The other one is, hey, I've got pack peace. You've got a boss. Let's make a lovely sandwich. And if they're making that lovely sandwich, it's Fist of Fury time. And you want to time it when the pack is there, because it's the only way you're going to contribute significant DPS. Because, yeah, Rushing Jadewind will do a lot of damage, and it's handy, but it really is meter padding. It's lovely meter padding, but it's meter padding.
So what I tend to use here in terms of glyph, this is the only fight so far that I do this. I take off Floating Butterfly, and I do the extended range Fist of Fury, so that way I can stun the pack beast, and this can really help with tank survivability as well. Because by the time your Fist of Fury is done, your stuns are over. They're typically dead, so that can help your tank stay up a little bit longer. All right. Anything else for Windwalkers?
Other than Rushing Jadewind is a lot of fun to take. I mean, we talked about diffuse magic. There's so much fire on the ground. So much fire, guys. Just if you need to back away and not do damage for a second, it's okay. It's better that you live. But dear God, there's so much fire.
Yep.
So much.
All right, let's move into Mistweaver then. So for Mistweavers, stay in melee range. Don't go out anywhere else, because then you have to mess with pin down, and nothing is more embarrassing than getting pinned down in this fight. Now here is one of the biggest tips, and I thank Suplift for pointing this out to me. Rushing Jadewind and Crane Stance, this is the one fight where all the perfect storm elements come together. Rushing Jadewind, each individual tick of that on each individual mob, so beast packs, will have a chance, and a good one, because the scaling is really weird, to spawn an orb near an injured player. And then because there's so much movement in this fight, those injured players will have no choice but to walk over your ball. So this can actually bring Gift of the Serpent to one of your top 3 heals, which is really weird. And it feels
I've never seen so many monk balls in all my life.
It's crazy. It's like, all I'm sitting there in Crane Stance, and I'm keeping up with my paladin, and I'm going, what is going on here? This is so wrong. So, yeah, especially if you got...
Everyone is accidentally healing themselves on purpose.
So, depending on your healing comp, if you're going really, really light healers, maybe not the best idea, but if you're kind of the half healer, go to town, man. Crane Stance and just Rushing Jadewind every time those beasts are up, because you're just going to do insane amounts of Gift of the Serpent heals. So that's a tip that I thought was really fun. I tried it out, and it works. It's great. So Life Cocoon, one of our best abilities here.
Unstoppable.
Right. I tend to save this for when the tank is going to be getting the beasts and start taking fire and get the boss at the same time, the perfect storm. So throw that on there, save his life. Or her life, whichever. So the team is going to be spread out a lot on this. So you're going to fall back to Pool of Mists for your talent, as well as Chi Wave. If you can spend time in Crane Stance, which I highly recommend, go Rushing Jadewind. Pool of Mists, really the only logical choice on 100 for now, because while the Chi Explosion balls are nice, especially when we get the Soothing Mist thing, they don't have the same scaling as the other spheres, so, and they're going to be in one targeted location, so I prefer Pool of Mist on this one. So there you are. And that does it. Any last minute tips for Beast Lord?
Stay out of the fire.
Yes.
Please.
Not a haste buff.
I mean, diffuse magic is nice. Touch of Karma is nice, although Touch of Karma is honestly a waste because it's just easier to move out of the way. But so much fire.
If you're doing it tonight, don't cry when the tanks beat you.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I like the idea of healing staying in melee range because, you know, I'm really proud of myself when I dodge the first 2 spears, and then I look really embarrassed when I'm like getting hit by them because I'm tunnel visioned on my healing bars trying to get people up.
Yeah, this is a mean fight for healers. And that's why I love being a Mistweaver, because I'm like, I'm just gonna
play
stand
such a
over
different game.
here now, and then let you guys get hit. It's nice.
Healers play a different game. It's almost like, you're an instrument flight, and it's just, I'm staring at these bars, and I must make the hurt go away.
I must click the...
You're not looking at your feet.
No. And I tried moving the bars closer to my feet, and it's not helping. I still can't see it.
Yeah. All right. Well, now, students, it is time to meditate and expand our knowledge in
Transcendence.
So here's the main reason we brought wonderful Kali Monk and wonderful Zupercat along with us, because we want to help you guys get better. And Zupercat's Ask Mr. Robot has created a fantastic tool to help you, and to add another tool to the arsenal from Warcraft logs and the old, what was the other one?
World of Logs.
World of Logs.
And WoW Web Stats, was that the one before that? Am I remembering? So long ago.
Yeah.
God, I didn't know that one.
I didn't know that
really
one
long time ago.
All right. Well, let's go straight into this. Who wants up?
So, first, a little bit of background. Warcraft Logs was born as a logging site and now offers a little bit of fight analysis, while Ask Mr. Robot, I believe you guys were doing some dancing when they finally said Reforging was going to go away.
Yes, so the way that happened is that was the one BlizzCon we couldn't make it to. And, we were all watching live and, like on Skype, hanging out with each other. And they announced Reforging was going to be gone, which was a surprise to everybody. And we're like, oh! And then, like 6 seconds later, we're like, oh, wait, that means we can finally do all the combat log stuff we've wanted to do, because we don't have to maintain an algorithm that, like the average number of relevant gems, enchants, and reforges per player just for your set of gear was like in the trillions, and we optimized people in less than a second without taking down our servers. That, like, if they released like one thing, like one change, like they released like Valor, it took us like 3 months to rewrite this thing to make sure it was still fast and 100% accurate. So we knew we couldn't really expand while maintaining an algorithm like that if we wanted to, still offer people, the single best solution. So once they announced Reforging gone, we're like, people's options are going to be like 100,000 or 1 million. Like, it's going to be so small. Now we have time. And so we had a lot of really cool things we want to do for combat logs, and that's how we got to end up doing it.
Now, Callie, you actually run in the same raid team on Temerity on Windrunner with Kira, who seems to be the only person behind Warcraft Logs. I mean, that is an impressive sight for a one-man operation. Why was it that he decided to start Warcraft Logs?
I wasn't part of Temerity whenever it came about, but I can already give you my best guess, which is probably 100% correct, is that World of Logs was terrible. It sucked. They never even put in the last 4 bosses as heroic for Siege of Orgrimmar, which is like, are you kidding me? You're going to abandon paying people for this? And, knowing Kira, he just got in his head, I can do this better. And so he did.
As someone who, in my professional career, is data analysis and visualization, I'm very jealous of a lot of the stuff that both Kira and Ask Mr. Robot have built.
We lucked out. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just saying we lucked out. We're 3 people, and we get to do this as our full-time jobs. So that's really awesome. But we have me. I handle like partnerships and reaching out to people and stuff. We have 1 developer, and then we have a designer. So we really, really luck out that we've got that designer, because he's also develops the user experience, and he's the real mastermind behind the infographics.
Well, both of the sites seem to be converging somewhere in the middle, where now we're going to be offering analysis and logging built out of that, aggregating a ton of data together and just being able to see what is coming. What's next for Ask Mr. Robot?
Yeah, so it took us the better part of last year to finalize the infographic concept. We had launched the logs, like the traditional log sites. None of us can talk tonight. The traditional log sites, like the data views. And so we got that running so that we could take all of this data and run experiments in the background to see what would work and what wouldn't work. And so we ended up coming out with the infographics, and then that's just the start. So now our next big push is going to be kind of doing something similar for that, but for comparing people. So like right now, I don't know a whole lot about monks. I know that I really like having our monk tank compared to other tanks. I think sometimes they do more healing than me. And so we're trying to take, people who, I don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of every class, or even my class. What if I switch to Boomkin to try and DPS? And so we want to kind of automate that and help people kind of improve, like help themselves improve. Whereas like right now, a lot of the log data, you really have to know what you're looking for in order to figure out what you're doing wrong. And we want to kind of solve that and help people figure everything out without having to previously know what to look for. And so this kind of compare feature is the next big thing we're working on.
Callie, for Warcraft logs, I know Kira is still keeping that himself. Saw recently that he did some server upgrade. Do you have any clue where he's going to take the site next? Because
he certainly didn't answer whenever I asked.
That seems fairly typical for him.
He's really busy with work right now, so.
Yeah, and we keep in touch with them, because one of the reasons we really like, Warcraft logs, we really respect his work. Like he builds really cool stuff, and so we keep in touch with them because our sites are going in different directions, and the more we communicate, the more we can, because there's more than enough to build for both sites, right? I mean, we're both basically one-man developer teams, and so then we can kind of, we give him a heads up. He knows we're working on this compare feature, and then he's like, okay, cool, you guys are working on that, so I'm not doing that. Instead, I'm going to go focus over here. And then we're like, cool, you're doing that. Like he's got replays, right? We're not going to build replays because he already did it. And unless we have something better to add, there's no reason for us to do that. And so it's kind of nice because then all of the users benefit because then they get 2 developers now working on cool stuff. And by focusing in different areas, you get to the benefit, they just get the benefit of even more features. So I'm excited to see where he goes. I know it'll be good.
Us too. I mean, personally, for our own raid team, Rolling Thunder, we use both sites, and we will interchange completely. We will ask people, hey, take a look at this on Ask Mr. Robot. We will take people, hey, take a look at the Warcraft logs. But usually, it's me generating all those links.
Right.
So let's help people out. And in the name of service to the community, I have offered myself up on the pyre. We're going to see all the stuff I mess up and show you how you can find if you're messing up the same way, because Lord knows I'm screwing up left and right. So in the show notes, there are going to be links to the 2 logs that we're using, and we're going to use the all-monk raid that we ran, was it last Monday? A week ago?
Yes.
Yeah, so we ran that last week. We were successful, 7 of 7 normal. And it was a lot of fun. But if you want to know the wide disparity between what it takes to be a good monk, not me, and a bad monk, probably me, you can look at those logs and see the wide gulf. So let's take a look at that. 3 things we wanted to focus on, so let's talk about the first. One thing I know I do all the time, and I always hit my head on the desk every time I do it, is I take this awesome 60% Tiger Eye brew with 12 seconds left, and then I hit my button, and now it's 12.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You definitely
How often
do that.
do I do that, Callie?
I actually didn't track that very closely like I should have. I actually picked up everything else you did wrong.
Perfect. Give it to me.
Okay. So here's...
Let's go on a boss-by-boss basis.
Well, I actually only looked at Imperator Margok because I procrastinated because I've been busy with having a birthday. So here we go. Okay.
Yay, birthdays.
This is like the first thing everyone does, I guess, is like click on your name and go, okay, how's your damage look? And I'm like, all right, so you were number 5 on damage at 678. So you weren't the lowest, but your damage could have definitely gone better. Okay, so what's going on here? So click on you. Well, let me correct that. Then what I do is I usually look at each of the enemies. So how do you do on the aberration? Ivy Stream did more than you, and you're pretty low, actually. In fact, all you had was your spirit hitting it. Okay. On Margok, though, you were actually number 3 damage, which is not bad at all. Looks like most of your hits were melee hits. Your remnants, you were very, very low. I'm seeing you actually didn't hit Chi Explosion as much as you probably could have. In fact, some of them look like they weren't even 4 Chi Explosions, looking at this.
Probably.
Meanwhile, everyone else is. So that tells me maybe you're not pulling your Chi correctly. That's one of the suspicions I had earlier.
Okay.
Displacing Aberration, that's the one that comes out in like phase 1 or 2 or something. You SEF'd it, but you never Touch of Deathed it. You have no Touch of Deaths during that phase, it looks like, that I can see.
In a raid full of monks, it's going to be a little
And that's why you sit there and
tough.
spam it.
Hold on, I'm going to bind that to my mouse wheel.
Pretty much. So then the Fortified Arcane Aberration, this is the one that's up a little bit longer. There were 3 of them that I see. Again, I don't see any Touch of Deaths. In fact, let me backtrack a little bit, because one thing I noticed that I have in my notes right here is for the Arcane Aberration, for the first one, I went to the Casts tab, and I saw that you cast Storm, Earth, and Fire, and then you began hitting the one that you'd cast Storm, Earth, and Fire on. I don't recommend doing that.
No, that's press button to do 60% damage. That's what that was.
Yeah. For the Arcane Remnants, that was my next note. So back to Remnants, Arcane Remnants. It looks like you didn't SCK at all, that I can see. You just hit Chi Explosion. I see a Chi Wave with it.
I actually
But no
don't hit
SCK.
SCK too often. Should I be doing that more?
For those, yeah. If you look
Okay.
at the people who did more damage than you, they were all using SCK, especially because you don't have any enhanced shamans in your raid.
Oh.
So that
Have I
actually
mentioned
lets
the
you.
all monk?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is
Yeah.
awesome.
So then
Druids
the
can do that
displacing
too.
one- yeah. So displacing one, you were a little bit low.
Okay.
I didn't really look too far into that. But again, it looks like you didn't pull Chi Explosion. You didn't get a Touch of Death off. So for the Reaver, you did the same thing as with the Aberration. You targeted the Weaver, hit SCF, and started hitting the Reaver. Not a good idea.
I'm going to
I
put
don't
a.
remember doing that.
I'm going to put a firm stop in here right now.
Yep.
I'm going to get a. I didn't set this up beforehand, and I apologize to our video listeners right now. I'm going to set up a screen so I can actually stream the logs, and I want you to.
Sure.
And Callie, I wanted you to kind of walk me through finding out some of this information
Sure.
you found out.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Okay.
So let me get this added in here.
Yep.
And
Yeah, I'm
can
sitting here, I'm
do I
like
get to
reading
watch
off
it on
these notes. I'm
Skype?
like,
All right. Select region.
oh, this is going to be fun with Twitch delay.
Yeah.
Well, the audio will be equally delayed for them too, so
Yeah, that's true.
hopefully.
Okay. All right, so I should be able to see it. So what you can do is go off of the link that was posted in Twitch, or that's in the Warcraft logs, or in the show notes, and then you can just tell me where to click.
Okay, so I had it open already.
Okay.
So let me backtrack to where I was. So click on the Damage Done tab.
Okay.
Looks like you're under Summary right now.
Yeah, I'm under damage done now.
Okay. So I just clicked on, if you go to all enemies, you can click through all of the enemies, see who did more damage to what.
Okay. So let's pick one, like Arcane Aberration.
Yeah. So let's go to Arcing Aberration. Again, so the kind of teal coloring means that that's from a pet. So that's SCF right there.
Okay.
Then the actual jade bar would be the amount of damage that you're doing.
Okay.
If you hover over it, it actually shows you like what your top ability was on whatever it was.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. So we looked at like Ivy, for example, who had that basically says that he was on that full time, whereas
Yep.
Yeah, he switched over to hit the mob, whereas I just said, "Go, my minion."
right,
Which is what everyone does, basically.
right,
So
It's what lazy monks do.
it's what monks do.
yep,
Okay. So the other thing is the casts tab. It's the very end, right next to resources.
Got it.
If you click on it, it's like, holy cow, this is like the best thing ever. I actually discovered it today because I don't really look at logs that in depth. So, of course, you want to...
Thanks.
Under all friendlies, just click on his name. And you can see basically every cast that he does. If you click on Safer Jab, if I click on the plus symbol right there, it shows me every time he casts Jab, which is quite a lot.
He tends to jab a lot. Yep.
He does jab a lot. So okay.
Makes me think
Then-
of Jabberwocky.
Yeah, a Jabberwocky. So, okay, let me see if I can backtrack to how I figured out that he was casting stuff. So, if you click on all targets, you'll get a little drop down, NPC. Let's click on Gorian Reaver.
Okay.
Let's click on the plus sign. Let's do Storm, Earth, and Fire. So you can see that go out on it. And then click on Jab. And you can see him basically hitting the Gorian Reaver.
Yep.
If you click on, I think it was events. No, it's not events. Okay. Cast on target. There it is. So at the very top, you'll see it's kind of hard to find. Cast by source, cast by spell, cast on target.
Yeah.
Click on that, and let's see. To go back and backtrack all of this stuff. Okay, sorry. I should have had all of this set up already, and I didn't. Okay, but there's totally a way to do it so that you can actually look at what he cast on it. So, okay. So I'm on Cast on Target. I click Daikatsu, all targets, NPC, Gorian Reaver. Yeah, there you go. You can see him cast everything on Gorian Reaver, including Storm, Earth, and Fire, right there.
Yep.
Don't do that. It's bad.
Right. Don't do... Okay. So, first Storm, Earth, and Fire, then Jab, no.
Yep.
Correct.
Got it.
Just
In your
stay on
defense,
the
there was
box.
a good 30 seconds in between those, though.
Yeah, there was. There was a bit of time. So it's almost like you just kind of accidentally targeted and started casting.
He probably just forgot to pull his clone off.
Yeah, the other thing is you can click on events, and it'll show you too. For example, I'm looking at it says, Daikatsu cast Storm, Earth, and Fire on Gorian Reaver. Daikatsu cast Jab, Jab, Rising Sun Kick, Jab, checks. So that's actually pretty helpful. That's how I tracked down the Arcane Aberration, so Kira made it nice and numbered everything. It's wonderful. But
Okay.
here's the other nice pane. And I can go completely in depth with you and show you, what you did wrong and all of your casts and all that. Click on the problems pane. This is basically the lazy way of looking at what else did you do wrong. So just let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
All right.
Okay.
So the first thing I see is potions used. You used one potion. Okay, so either you
Joke.
didn't pre-pot or you didn't use your second potion. So what I can do
Probably
is...
the latter.
Yep, that's what I figured it out. If you go to Analyze and Buffs, you'll see a couple of issues here. First of all, your RSK falling off. I do have a note about that.
Oh, yeah.
But you can also see Drainic Agility Potion. Yep, I see a pre-pot, no second pot at all. So, back on
I'm not
problems.
seeing Rising Sun Kick here. What's going on?
Oh, it's under debuffs. Sorry.
Oh, that's a debuff. That's right.
Yep, my bad. Debuff, and then it would be on the boss itself.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the other way you could do that is by... hold on. No, that doesn't actually get it to me. Why not? Grr.
Yeah. So if you go under debuffs, click on enemies, all enemies, and then on the second one, all sources, click on Daikatsu, and you can see his Rising Sun Kick debuff is basically speaking to us in Morse code.
Right. 75% uptime. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So
Anyway,
back
Need
back
to
to-
make that weak aura bigger.
Yes.
Yeah. So then the other thing here is that it shows you all the avoidable damage that you used, as well as the fact that you didn't use a healing tonic. In fact, only 2 people used healing tonics, so shame on all of you.
No, we were just
Putting
so awesome
pressure
we
on the
didn't need them.
healers. putting pressure on the healers nonetheless.
Yes.
So, Kira made it really nice. I'm not going to go into in depth of everything that happened wrong or anything like that. But the nice thing is he gives you kind of an explanation of, this is what the ability is, this is why this is in the problem pane, and this is what it means. For example, destructive resonance is from the mines.
Right.
So the first thing you see is, oh god, everyone got hit by this. This is awful, until you see, okay, these are the people who triggered the mines. This is how many they triggered. And then, of course, you kind of go down and you can just basically see everything. I don't feel that I need to give a full description of what's going on here.
This is pretty self-explanatory, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, the problem stab is one you definitely want to take a look at if you're trying to figure out what you did wrong. So,
oh, definitely.
Yeah. So one thing I do want to ask is, okay, so I'm looking at my logs. So I think I'm doing okay, but when I look at my rankings, I'm only in the 40th percentile.
Okay.
So what can I look at to see what I can improve?
Basically, what I tend to do, kind of as a high-level player, is I get other monks' logs, I look at their uptimes on buffs, this is actually a good segue into the replay tab, because this is the coolest thing. Oh gosh, I was playing with it all day today, actually.
It really is.
So with replay, and if you guys were in IRC, I was like, oh my gosh, it even shows you where your Storm, Earth, and Fire are. You can see it pooping out little Storm, Earth, and Fires from around the ad. This is kind of where it is, because if you select a player, hit play, it'll actually show you every single cast that the player is doing at that second, what their target is. If you select pets, it'll even show you what their Storm, Earth, and Fire are on, where they're standing, because it'll actually highlight where they are with kind of a darker border. In other words, this is awesome. This is like watching combat logs for the lazy. If you're just sitting there at work one day and trying to figure out, hey, why is Desco doing 20% more damage than me? Okay, he's doing this. This is what his health is at. These are whenever he's casting his Tiger Eye Brew, things like that. So, like I said, it's basically log reading for the lazy, and personally, it's one of my most favorite features at this point.
I found the Guardian Reaver. Let me see if I can find where he did Storm, Earth, and Fire.
Yeah.
Live on Twitch, Duke screws up.
Yeah, I think my favorite part at the bottom, if you click on pets, because pets aren't turned on since it is a little bit heavier. I think it was around
All
5
them
minutes.
Green triangles. Yeah, it was 5:52. I think you said.
Yeah, 5:52 is my most favorite part, because you can see all the monks cast Storm, Earth, and Fire around this little brown diamond, and it's like it's pooping them all out, and they're just following it around. I'm like, that's the part of the raid that's the most fun, because you just see all these clones running everywhere.
It's all the little triangles chasing this guy around. That's hilarious.
Yep, you can see them just jump out, and there was one other point too that I saw, that you were actually chasing a single arcane remnant instead, while everyone else is hovering around the two that are right here and being cleaved down and stuff. So
everyone's DPSing the boss. Duke's chasing butterflies.
But it even shows you things like whether or not your Tiger Power is up, whether or not you have Tiger Eye Brew up. I'm watching it right now. I just saw you overwrite a Tiger Eye Brew buff. I can see how many stacks you're at. I can see you pop it. I can even see you. I can see you get Tiger Strikes too right now. I can see your weapon enchants. It's basically like watching it through your eyes, even if you aren't streaming. And this is basically why all the high-end guilds are making all their logs private now.
Because you can see everything they do.
Yep.
See,
yeah,
this
so
must have been
really
6 minutes into the fight. Yeah, okay, there's all those runs.
Yeah, so if you ever have any questions, hey, what is this guy doing differently than me in this phase? Replay is your best bet, is to find where that certain ad or whatever comes out in the fight and look at what they're doing, where their clone is, where their positioning is, even, what they're casting right at that moment. The only downside is you can't see how much chi you have, but analysis actually has that for you, because with analysis is where I see that you're actually not wasting a lot of chi, and that's good. It's very common for monks to waste chi, I've noticed. So if you go back to Analyze and Resources, right now I have all enemies and resources, but switch it back to Friendlies.
Okay.
Select Daikatsu. I think we're breaking Warcraft logs right now because it's being a little bit slow on my end.
It's doing all sorts of weird stuff.
Oh yeah, I just killed
We
the
broke
site.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think site
Alright,
is
so.
now broken. Alright, I think it might be a good time to switch on over to Supercat then.
You chase
Yeah.
too many
Yeah,
butterflies.
too many butterflies.
All them butterflies.
Alright.
The worst part is my raid leader is in the chat right now. I'm sure he's taking notes to use Tuesday.
Oh, actually, I got resources to load just now.
Okay.
So I have Daikatsu up under Friendlies. Under hit points, I just select Chi. And here's where I could tell that you weren't pooling your Chi at all. I see a handful of points where you're getting to 5 Chi, which honestly you should be able to get to 6 Chi on this because you're using Chi Explosion. So you should be spec Ascension. So I see that you're down, I would say upon average, you're around 3 Chi, which, to be honest, what I usually do for Imperator is that I save up my Chi for those kind of burst phases whenever you have the add up, whenever you're trying to scumbag with Chi Explosion, because that way you're getting 4 Chis off, whenever it's actually hitting something else and splashing onto it. The other good one to look at is energy. So swap it to energy and I can see where you're energy capping. The beauty of Imperator Margok is there's always something to hit. You can either CJL the boss, you can use Expel Harm to build Chi if you want to, or of course, you have Jab or SCK. So I see that you aren't always fully taking advantage of that, so I do see a few cases where you're energy capping.
Okay.
But the good news is it looks like under Energizing Brew you didn't waste any. But that could also be a little bit buggy. I don't know how he has that implemented right now.
So the one thing I'm doing well, it might be buggy.
Right.
To be fair, Chi Waste was actually a little bit buggy because he had Windwalker set to 4 Chi for a while. I'm like, no, we have 5 Chi base now.
Okay, so I have a
6
question about WCL. I'm derping right on live broadcast. So I zoomed into a portion of it. How do I unzoom?
Let me look.
So underneath where it says all faces up along the top,
Oh, reset.
you'll see.
There we go.
Yeah.
Never mind. Derp.
No worries. That's actually copy. I remember that from, what's it called? World of Logs, and it was so horrible to use at that.
Yeah, I really like that you can zoom in and take a look at particular times. It's nice.
Yep. Especially having the automagic zooming.
Right.
So let's see what's going on with Ask Mr. Robot. Let's switch over to that now. And Supercat, now it's your turn to treat me like a punching bag.
All right. Well, you're in luck because I am not a monk expert like Kelly. So I'll just be like, hey, there's some pretty pictures here. Let's take a look. So the link you're starting from is the picture with all the bosses, right?
Right.
Let me see. Yes. Okay. So first of all, a shout out to that artist. That's Cadistra at Cadistra on Twitter. She did an amazing job. Anyway, I love to give her
So cute.
as much
I want
credit
a
as I
plushie
can.
Texas
So
that looks like
what you
that.
can see, can you just? I know, right? So do you see towards the top where you can select a player?
Yep, I selected Daikatsu
Okay.
here, and I see
Perfect.
that you did crap on Brackenspore.
So what I really like about this view
Frickin'
is
suck.
you can quickly see, like very quickly see how you did and how your team did.
So
With
we're
the two
really,
numbers
really
on the right, with the
solid
bars
on
that roll in.
Butcher
So if you want, we can look at the.
And Twin Ogron, imagine that. Monks are good at Twin Ogron.
But I did better than the raid.
You did.
And we can look at this. We can look at the same boss if you want, or we can look at a different boss. It's up to you.
Yeah, let's take a look at Imperator.
Okay, so if we look at Imperator, so the first thing you'll end up seeing is all of the icons across the top, and this gives you a really nice, fast look at how you did, right? So if you see something like Force Nova, it's green. It looks like it's filled in 75% of the way. If you mouse over it, you can see your score, which is 7.4, which is about 75%. So what you can really do with this is focus on what you didn't do well on. And for us, when we were working on Margok, we were having a really hard time, and we thought everyone needed to work on the arcane wraths. And we came back here and we looked, and it's like, oh, well, compared to the average, we're actually doing really great, so maybe that's not our problem. So all of these scores are comparing you to all of the data we have. So on successful kills. So basically, if you're getting, a 50% rating, that means you're doing what most people are doing who kill the boss. So even if you get like a score of 10, or sorry, like a 10% or a score of 1, you're like, oh wow, we're doing horrible. Keep in mind, you're still doing better than 10% of people who killed the boss.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're showing you where the bar is set, right? So that was one of our big things we wanted to do.
Metric. I'm doing 10%
so, yeah,
better than people who killed the boss, but no.
But you're still doing better than people who killed the boss. Or if you're in, so 50% is actually a good score. We've all been trained, 50% is fail, right? Like in schools and stuff. But here 50% is saying you're at the top of that, you're in the middle of that bell curve, right in the top part. So you're doing what most people are doing. And then any deviation from that is saying you're doing something right or you're doing something wrong, compared to people who are killing things. Because we all know, you should, we were talking about Darmac, we all know you should avoid the spears. And every guide tells you to avoid the spears, but you don't really know how well you have to do at avoiding the spears as a team. And so that's kind of what this data is telling you. So if you can mouse over the avoidable damage circle, and then you see it'll expand and it shows you all of the different scores you get for each of the avoidable damage mechanics. And you can click to any one of those and go right through it. But if you don't click, we can just start scrolling from the top, and you can see how well you played. So I'm going to have Mr. Robot tell you how well you played, because I don't really know much about monks. So if you see the section that says how much damage did we do, and there's a yellow square or yellow circle. I can't talk, none of us can talk. And it says you averaged 19,000 DPS. Your raid averaged 17,000 DPS, and then if you go to the far right, it shows how much your top 5 DPSers did. So it's just a nice kind of summary of your team. And then if you scroll down, you see the percentile. So you were actually at the 49th percentile. That's not taking anything else into account. It's not taking out into account spec or gear.
Yeah.
Yep. And then your raid was at 33%, so you're outperforming the average person in the raid. And again, to the right, you can see more data. If you wanted to be better than 75% of the people who kill this boss, you'd have to be doing 22,000 DPS. So you can kind of see how far off you are, which is cool, because you're like, well, if I do another 2,000 DPS, is that good? Or what are the top people doing? And so that's kind of a nice little metric. Then here, the poor Daigatsu's 6%. What this is showing is how well you did for dual Windwalkers, so your spec and your exact item level. This is actually new as of last week. We started doing it by item level instead of buckets. So, because what was happening with the buckets is I'd be like, well, I'm at the bottom of the bucket, so the fact that I'm only healing at 20%, I'm going to just discount it, right? So we changed it so that nobody had excuses anymore. So 6%. This is where Callie helps on what you need to do better. And this is where our new, we talked about where we're going to go. We want to kind of take this metric right here and basically give you a link and be like, so what can you do better? And automatically help you do that. So there's that. And then, you can keep scrolling and look at, some of the things. If you want to click, at the ads at the top, there's a little ads button, the circle, you can click there. And, earlier we were talking about some ads, in Darmac and how long they live. We measure each ad separately. Most often it's time to live, but in some cases it's a strategy where you might actually let them stay up on purpose because you're focusing on other things, and so then we measure it by something else. So if you are looking, your monks, and you have to do special stuff, there's a lot of ramp-up time, right, to damage a lot of the ads. You can come here and you can see, well, how quickly is my team killing the ads? And use that as a gauge of, you know, how maybe you should play, right? Like if the ads are staying up for 30 seconds, that's enough time to ramp up. If they're staying up for 10 or 15 seconds and that's not enough time, you can kind of gauge how you should play based on this data. And yeah, so that's basically what we do. We just try to take all of the data and aggregate it and just help you in these views. And then we also have a data view. So if you click any of the go to top, back to top links on the left, or just scroll all the way to the top, you see where the big infographic word is?
Yeah.
To the left is data. So click on data.
We had a lot of people die.
There was a lot of people. Jeez. This was a kill too, wasn't it?
It's marked as white for some reason.
Is it? Let me see.
Yeah, I switched it over to the kill.
Oh, did you move it to the kill one? Okay. Oh yeah, because before on the infographic we were probably looking at all of them.
Right.
All of your attempts. You can look at just one attempt on it if you want. Let's see. So let's look at the kill here. Yeah. So here's the data view. This is where, we still took a slightly approach, but it's much more similar to like the traditional sites, you know, like World of Logs and Warcraft Logs. You know, you get the bars and you get all the numbers. On the left, you can mouse over the rank, which shows your percentile, and you can get data, like, you know, all the different stuff, like how you did overall and how you did for your item level and how you did for your item level and spec. One fun thing that we do is if you select, like just click on a user, like any of these players, you could click on Daikatsu here.
Just pick on
all right, and do you see at the top, you see his name, right? And then directly to the right, you see the View Gear, Talents, and Glyphs button. Right. So you can click on that, and we gather, at the start of every poll, we gather all of your gear, talents, and glyphs. And so, you know, because a lot of times you'll win.
Holy cow.
I know, it's like a sneaky little thing. I know, I have to like, if people don't know it's there, it's actually good feedback, because then it's something we'll either change the layout or.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, because, you know, you might be switching talents between things, and we're also tracking all of this data, and this is one of the things we want to do to, like, in our compare thing, we'll be able to say, hey, you know what? A lot of monks who are doing really well are using this talent. So we'll be able to, since we gather all of this data, we'll be able to kind of help you out. And it's really nice for when you're helping other people, too. You can look at it and be like, oh, what talents were you using on this poll? And try to figure out how people are doing. And so, you know, you clicked, and there's more data here. You know, you can click on any single spell. You can, you know, really dive down into it, just like, you know, Warcraft Logs. One view, another thing a lot of people aren't familiar with, do you see there's, at the top it says damage, and then to the left there are two green buttons. One looks like it's like a paragraph, and one looks like a graph.
Right.
Yep, click the graph one.
Okay.
And so, you know, here's where we have the different graphing options. You can choose a spell. Like, I don't know what spell would be good for you to look at. You're a monk. Pick your favorite spell.
All right. Let's take a look at Jab.
Jab. Well, Jab looks like you use that a lot. So it shows up as vertical lines. And then if you scroll down a little bit, you can also put energy and chi in those. And then at the very bottom, you can turn on any buffs. So you can see, like, where the buffs might overlap. So, you know, very similar, you know, Warcraft Logs has a lot of cool graphing. You know, so it's very similar. It's just a button that a lot of people don't know exists. So it's,
okay,
but it's fun to look at, right? Who doesn't like graphs?
That is really cool. So you can see your Tiger power-up time easily. So unfortunately, Rising Sun Kick debuff isn't on here, because that's a debuff.
Oh, I see, because it's showing up as a debuff. I see.
Right, it's a debuff on the target.
Yep,
right, I will have to talk to our
developer. That's the same thing with the Warcraft Logs. So.
Right, you go to the debuff section. I'll talk to a developer. We can probably get a special, you know, special code it.
Yeah. Special monk only.
Special monk only stuff. They're so special.
Our unique little snowflakes here.
Yeah, and so, you know, you can look at like any of this stuff for any player at the top. It's easy to switch players. So basically, that's what we do. You know, we have had this data view live since like last year, March, I think. And the infographics are new with basically BlackRock Foundry, and that's the infographics are what we really wanted to like help people with, because it's really helping the team right now as well as an individual player, but it's mostly focused on the team. How are you doing? How are you avoiding spears? How is any individual person doing on any mechanic? And so then our next feature is kind of helping you figure out how to play better without having to look at all of these views and these graphs. We want to do it for you. It's no small feat, so it'll take a few weeks.
What is this red line that's going in and out? Is that just his damage? His DPS?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So the squiggly line, yep, that's the damage that he was doing. And then the vertical brown lines that showed up are the jab, and you can switch that to any spell and stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And see, like, so a lot of times it's fun to look at how spell usage overlapped with trinket procs or, different buffs you're supposed to use. So yeah, that's what we have, and that's the start of what we have. The infographics are a big exciting thing right now.
This whole data thing is really cool. I had no idea this was here.
Yeah, I mean it's exactly. But we also didn't really promote it, because there's already sites that do a good job with data, and this is also another data view, right? Like a lot of this stuff, like we have a different user interface, but it's not adding much that like Warcraft Logs doesn't have, and Warcraft Logs has some cool graphing things that we don't have, right? And so we haven't really pushed that. We want people to know it's there, so if you like something in the infographics and you want to know more, the data view is there. But the real big push was the infographics. Look, we never wanted to be another log site. We wanted to build something different from ground up to solve the problems we have. Like, we used to run a high-end raid team. Used to. Like
lots of people used to.
Used to. Now we're, a little more casual, 3 of 10, heroic, BlackRock. But, we wanted to build something that, because we would look at, World of Logs back in the day, and we would have to do all of the work and help people figure out how to improve, because a lot of people either didn't know how to use them or didn't want to use them. And so that's the problem we're trying to solve. We're trying to be like, well, no, in 2 minutes, like, you saw when you loaded Margok, in like 30 seconds, you knew what you were good at and not good at based on the colored lines.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we want to do to help players improve their character play as well, not just the team fights. So that's kind of has been our approach. So yeah, we're pretty excited.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So one thing I did notice was on there I was looking at the infographics, and then you had comparison. And that's something you guys are working on, right?
Exactly, yep.
Okay. Do you have any ETA on that, or?
We're hoping a few weeks, but you never know. My developer might be like, "What?"
Right.
But sooner rather than later. It took us, like, we launched, the data view of the logs in like March of last year, and then it was pretty quiet until the infographics came out like 3 weeks ago. And that's just because we were testing so much on the back end, being like, is this going to work? Nope, scrap that. Is this going to work? Nope, scrap that. But now that that's out, it's like all of our time is being spent on developing new cool stuff, and those, it's like, every week you're getting a major milestone done. Like this week we just relaunched now called the Team Optimizer, it formerly known as RoboConsole, if anybody was familiar with that, where it takes your entire raid team, and when loot drops, it tells you how big of an upgrade it is for each person in the team. And so it kind of like helps you figure out, like, is this weapon a 10% upgrade for somebody and a 1% for somebody else? Is that going to change your loot decision? Or is it a 3% upgrade for both people, and have at it, right? So we just did that in a week, and then now we're working on the comparison stuff.
Okay. Yeah, the comparison
stuff. So it shouldn't be long.
Now, the comparison stuff, the last time you were on the show, you mentioned a feature you guys were working on. I'm hoping this is part of the comparison, where you're looking at yourself and you're saying, well, okay, it says I'm on the 10th percentile of monks at 666 item level for this amount. That's when it's going to say, I can click in and say, well, people who are parsing way higher than you are using these talents and you're not. Is it going to do something like that?
Yes, so the first stage is we will find the logs for you to compare to. Because nobody's done that before, right? It's like you have all these this log data, and it's like, just help me find somebody. And right now, what do? You go to the top ranked people, right? And you find their logs. And so what this is going to do is say, well, we know your item level, we know your gear, we know so much data about you. We can find you people to compare to. And what we're going to do is take, we have some tricks, like we'll take the top 5% out, because we're going to assume the top 5% are either cheesing it or got a lot of lucky crits, right? So we'll just take the 95th percentile. Those are still going to be good people, or maybe the 97th, right? And we can be like, hey, here's 10 people to compare you to. And then we'll do the automatic comparison, like you were saying, right? It's like, hey, they're using these talents, and it's on a per fight basis, right? So sometimes, like you guys know, certain talents are better for different fights,
Right.
and show you all of this data, or show you, here's how the spell usage is breaking down, or where things overlap and shouldn't overlap, and yeah. So we really want to do that automatically for you, so that you don't have to necessarily be an expert, because we all know, like, most raiders, unless we're all really high-end mythic, are not doing as much research on their class as the raid leaders would like. And so this is going to help you, right? It's going to be like, well, hold on, Mr. Robot knows all of your data. We can just help you and tell you without you having to do all that research. And then, of course, since we're really big on like supporting other sites and we don't make content ourselves, we'll have links in there that say, all right, we told you about, like found the differences for you. But here are some guides, here are some podcasts, episodes to listen to. Here are some things. If you want to know a little bit more, go read up on it. Wink, wink. Right?
Right. All right. Anything else we want to go over, Duke?
I think that pretty much covers it.
All right. That was awesome.
I want to thank both Callie and Super for coming on, showing me how I can improve. Let's not use how I suck. It's how I can improve.
Everything's positive. How you can improve.
Exactly.
That's exactly what we want, because you're taking a look, and Windwalkers have been kind of in a rough spot recently, and so this is going to get a lot better starting tomorrow. But still, if you want to take a look and you're saying, well, okay, I'm not doing as much DPS as I could, what can I do? And I've had this recently where I've gone like, okay, I've got another Windwalker in my team that is doing way better than I am at a lower item level. What am I doing wrong? And these are super useful tools to come and look in and say, okay, well, my Rising Sun kick is going off a cooldown. I'm overriding my Tiger Eye Brew. I'm not hitting Tiger Eye Brew when my trinkets are up. Things like that. And I was just playing around with that, with the charts that you had, and that Ask Mr. Robot has, and I can put up my trinket procs and my Tiger Eye Brew, and I can say, okay, well, I had both of my trinket procs here, and I didn't have Tiger Eye Brew up. That's huge.
Right.
That is a bad mistake. Yep. So
right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be
so
fair,
we hope to be able to
like-
help with that.
Yep, and I'll admit, I can't give Warcraft logs, the proper amount of adoration that it truly deserves. There's so much to it. Like, I could go into pins, I could go into a lot of things. It's a site that I only give you, kind of the surface presentation. It's a site with a lot of depth, but
Yeah. Kira put
He's
out
also-
a video about 2 weeks ago, about a 34-minute video talking solely about pins.
yeah,
That I'm sitting on my couch. I have an Apple TV. I put it up on YouTube. I'm sitting on my couch rapt with attention.
yeah.
Just go,
Pins are amazing. I'm not gonna get into
What?
them here just
I could-
because you could go watch it, have Professor Kira teach you. But yeah, pins are kind of very similar to the expression editor from World of Logs, except easier.
right. Yeah.
So definitely,
and it's
play
really,
with those.
and I can't say enough, like, how lucky everybody is to have, like, two sites, that are slightly different focus, like, that are both awesome. And Kira develops on stuff super fast. Like, you ask him, for stuff, and, like, he'll get those features up right away. And then, we've got our team of 3 with our one developer, and, same thing. Both sites are really fantastic. And, like, I don't think we've had a time where, people have had so many really cool raid tools all at once in a raid tier. So we're pretty excited, and he does amazing work.
Yeah.
We say upload to both. It's easy.
Exactly.
Absolutely
I
upload
use
to
both
both.
sites. How I tend to use things as a raid leader is I look at Ask Mr. Robot first. I start with the infographic, figure out, okay, where are we having problems? Go into that fight and Ask Mr. Robot, play with the graphs, figure out where we're having issues, and then take that info, timestamps, everything, move into Warcraft logs.
Yeah, and even with Warcraft logs, you can even just go to the problems pane,
Right,
and half the
problems is a
time
good
you'll be
spot.
like,
Yep.
okay, this is, pretty cut and dry. This is, how much damage you're taking to this. And if, you're a top whatever raider and maybe it's not in the problems pane yet, you can always go to damage taken and filter that way too.
Yep.
That's actually the one thing that we were looking at with Hans and Franz is, so who's dying to Stampers the most, actually? Because, this guy over here looks like he's dying 500 times, but it turns out that it was such and such, not the Windwalker, mind you, who was actually dying the most to them.
Yeah, I was really happy when I was looking at my infographic on Ask Mr. Robot and Hans and Friends, and it's like, you're like, did a 7 here. I'm like, I did crap, yes, but you lived.
But you lived, yes.
You didn't get hit by anything.
Right, and that's a nice way to look at it. Like, you've got those things at the top, and it's like, my DPS is bad. And so many people focus on just DPS, and here you're able to be like, well, my DPS is bad, but I did awesome on everything else. Or if your DPS is bad and you did bad on everything else, it's like, all right, you need to get a little more practice.
Board,
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, students, well, now it's time to travel to the Peak of Serenity, the home for all monks in
Zen pilgrimage.
Monks, assemble!
All right, we have some questions from the community, and if you have a question for us, you can reach us at show@monkmeditation.com. We'll be happy to answer them on the air. Murin from Kieran Tor asks us, leveling my Mistweaver has been an almost entirely enjoyable, smooth process from level 1 until I got to item level 615. I can handle LFR all night, but healing on heroics is one long festival of mana depletion, and it's not like I can skip them because of the legendary ring quest steps. Do you folks have any advice for making the process no more painful than it has to be? Go Windwalker.
That's what I was going to say.
Windwalker or Brewmaster, I strongly agree, because I actually very recently started playing Mistweaver to kind of learn it, and it was painful.
Yeah.
It's very painful in 5-mans.
It's going to get even worse starting tomorrow because of the mana T changes.
Yeah.
Your spirit is going to be insanely low. You're going to go so quickly and not be able to do a thing about it. And I'm sorry to be doom and gloom. I'm the Mistweaver optimist, but it's tough. It is really tough, and it's going to get even more tough. The best tip I can give is go in, find a tank buddy that you like and is good, and stick with him or her, because a good tank makes it so much easier in there, where you don't have to worry about spamming Surging Mist at them repeatedly, and you can focus on tending to your other raid or your other team members. So it's the best of us if you want to stick with Mistweaver and get used to it in heroics. But doing heroics and doing a raid are so fundamentally different for Mistweaving.
Our tools are really bad for being a 5-man, the only healer, that kind of stuff. We're just not very good if everyone's taking a lot of damage.
Yeah.
We're very good if there's 10 to 15 people around.
Yeah. Abuse Enveloping Mist, abuse Life Cocoon, and really abuse Revival. Because Revival will take everyone in your 5-man group from 1 hit point to full, pretty much.
It's the mistake eraser.
Right. So because because of how it scales, it works really well in a 5-man. So they're giving us a lot of tools in 6.1 for free healing. Chi Torpedo is a big one. Chi Torpedo is going to give you a lot of free healing. Take that, use it. So it's possible to do. It's just going to make it a lot harder. And use your level 30 talents, your Chi Burst, your Zen Sphere, Chi Wave. Those are going to help a lot too. All right, Chris from the Undermine server had a question about logs and how to compare himself to others if there's no other Windwalker in his raid. Additionally, he is playing with a Brewmaster off-spec and wants to know if he needs a full set of other gear to do heroic dungeons or questing. Just so happens we went over some log information there.
Go back about 20 minutes.
Right. So, yeah, if there's no other Windwalker in your raid, that's kind of the hard part. Is like it's really easy when you have a good Windwalker that's doing better. Look at him because you're in the same raid, similar gear. Wait a few weeks for the analyze thing from Ask Mr. Robot. That's going to go well. And you can focus down in Warcraft logs. You can focus in on similar item level brackets and dive in and pull up those guys.
Everyone likes to go to the rankings and look whoever has like the top X or top Y.
Yeah, not a good way.
Switch it over to statistics. Look at who is like, if you're just starting out, aim for like 50th percentile. And try and find those logs and try and find those people. Those are the ones that you want to focus on. And then eventually you climb up the percentiles until you hit, max or 97th percentile. But yeah, that's what I would do as far as looking at logs. As for Brewmaster gear,
Yeah, he says that he has it
you
as a
want
off spec.
mastery.
Well, he wants to know if he needs a full other set of gear to do heroic dungeons requesting. If you're at if you're at a higher item level, the only thing you want to look for is get some 630 or 640 pieces from LFR that are bonus armor in the rings and trinket area.
Yeah,
but otherwise,
bonus armor, mastery, rings, trinkets, neck, cloak. That's what you would want to have.
right.
And with that, you're pretty much done.
And especially if you're going with high mall gear, there's so much mastery in that crap anyways, you'll be fine. If you start getting the BRF, then eventually, but at that point you're going to be such high item level it's not going to matter. So don't worry about it. Okay, Monger asks, for Brewmaster, is it better to go two-hander or dual wield? And I think we've had this conversation recently. Two-hander significantly better unless you're like talking a 20, 25 point item level disparity. The scalar for your elusive brew stacks is ridiculously high for two-hander, so go with that.
Yeah, basically the difference is that with two-hander you're going to have a much more steady buildup of elusive brew, so you're always going to have at least 5 to 7 stacks around. Whereas with one-hander, you won't have elusive brew, then all of a sudden you're drowning. And that's how it kind of goes. There's no in between. And elusive brew is really nice because sometimes
I think I have a show title.
We do.
Elusive blue.
Elusive blue. Elusive brew is really nice because even if you use up only 7 stacks of it, you're not really wasting it because the stacks just tells you how long it lasts. You still get the full 30% dodge effect. Right, so sometimes maybe there's only one big hit and you want it for the next 5 seconds, so you just spend those 5 stacks real quick.
Right.
So.
All right, Acid Sweet asks in the dojo, what do you recommend to do if you're an old player coming back to the game? Roll a monk and enjoy yourself.
Yep.
Yep.
Right now, Windwalker's actually in a really nice place as of tomorrow. You're going to be doing pretty decent damage in heroics. You're going to be doing pretty decent damage in raids. You're not going to have the kind of utilities that other classes do, but honestly, focus on heroics. Get your 630s up. Try and find some cheap 640 crafted gear because now you'll be able to step it up another level, I think, to 670
Something
or
like
680.
That, yeah. Something big.
And, I mean, the price of Primal Bloods for those upgrade items are going to drop drastically. The other thing that's going to drop drastically is the materials required for the reroll item that you get, where it's not going to require the big item anymore. So it's just going to require, like, basic materials. Yeah, so these things are going to be, like, cheap as crap, too.
Yeah. To be honest, though, if you're, like, let's say you've been out since the end of Mists and you're coming back, the resource I will point you to is Wowhead. On the right-hand side, there is a huge breakdown of warlords. It says raids, dungeons, crafting, professions, things like that. Go into each of those, they'll have guides and just basic information about each of the steps of warlords and how it's different and just gives you a base understanding of the game. Because this is a completely different game than it was in 5.4.
And the Windwalker guide is actually written by someone who's not a complete moron.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just needs to update it. That's all.
Yeah.
All right. And
also go visit Blizzard Watch, which is, so WoW Insider is gone. It's now Blizzard Watch because they finally have a monk columnist who, again, is not a moron.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was a a new a new column came out on the Blizzard Watch called Zen Meditation, and it's written by someone on this panel right now.
I have no idea who you're talking about. No idea.
One calligraphy monk.
Yep.
Did what?
Zen Meditation will be published maximum of 2 times a month, shooting for every other week, and it's going to cover all 3 specs. Obviously, for a major change, I'm going to try to hit all 3 specs, but a lot of the time I'm going to be kind of swapping from one spec to the other just to kind of get good coverage of all of them. Obviously, 2 times a month isn't enough for 3 completely different roles, but that could be expanded in the future depending on how well things go for Blizzard Watch.
Right. And the first one is out, and it is in regards to 6.1 changes for all 3 specs. So if what we said in the intro part of the of the show tonight isn't enough for you, go and check that out. We'll include the link in the show notes. And even if it is enough for you, go check it out because she did really well. All right. Geodo, as I mentioned before, has put out Mistweaver stat weights for 6.1. Again, static spirit. And when I mean static spirit, I mean on your trinket when it just says plus spirit, not this will proc spirit for you if on whatever. Static spirit is super, super high weighted, about twice as much as intellect right now. So go for those spirit trinkets and other pieces. And it's actually been rumored that the plus spirit gems from, I think it was Wrath, are higher weighted than the Wrath, or than the plus 35s.
Yeah.
Right now.
It's insane. Than any of the plus 35 secondaries. It's insane.
He said the plus 50 multi-strike one is still better. But the plus 35s, go for the spirit ones. It's going to be even better for you. However, I loaded all these stat weights into Ask Mr. Robot and pulled up a Bass and Slot list, and it's still the exact same as it was before. The only thing is different is the trinket from Blackhand. You want to go with the auto-repairing autoclave instead of the other one, which I can't remember. So go with that one instead, because that is a plus spirit one instead of a spirit proc. All right, and Total Chai wrote a really great article on his blog in regards to lower end of Brewmasters and what's going on there. And so he summarized a lot of the community discussion for Brewmasters on MMOC and posted a really nice detailed explanation and what can be done to nerf Brewmasters in the appropriate way where it doesn't destroy the lower end. So go check that out, add your comments, and join the discussion. All right, so recruitment. Every week we go over guilds that are looking for a monk. We happen to know a few. So if you have a guild looking for a monk, reach out to us at show@monkmeditation.com and let us know, and we'll announce it. So just like Onslaught from the Terralian server, US server, they're Horde side, and they're looking for Windwalker for heroic progression. They raid Tuesday and Thursday from 9 p.m. to midnight server time. So go join them. Do we have any other questions in the dojo that I missed?
I think it's pretty quiet. So. We've stunned them into silence with all of this.
All right, guys. I think it's time to put the brew away then. So please rate us on iTunes, Stitcher, subscribe on YouTube, or on Twitch.tv. And would you like to help support the show and make it grow and get even better? You can become our boss by going to patreon.com/monkmeditation. You can help guide the future of the show and get some fun rewards along the way. All right, Zupercat, got any shout-outs?
Just my raid team, who's going to be raiding without me tonight. Good luck, guys. And to Kira for building an awesome, awesome resource for raiders. All
right, and Callie.
Yeah, just shout out to people from Temerity and anyone in Peak of Serenity right now, too. You guys are awesome, and thank you so much for all of your support. I mean, it's been a wonderful community, and it couldn't have happened without everyone.
Yep. Yeah, join in on IRC, Peak of Serenity. It's a really good place to be.
It's a rollicking good time.
Indeed it is. All right, Duke, got any shout-outs?
Yeah, I want to actually give a plug for a raid member, Estonius, who is in the Boats and Hosen raid with us, is starting a YouTube series of boss strategy guides that is focused solely on what melee DPS should do. And since our role is specific melee DPS, it fits. Indeed. So you can find his channel on YouTube if you look for IKE Bot Prime. That's his username. He's got 2 out, one for Gruul, one for Orgorger. Go check it out. The guides are about 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes long, and they're very, very good, specific for melee DPS.
All right, fantastic. Okay, as part of the Monk community, if you have a blog, website, or person you want to see in the show, reach out to us via email at show@monkmeditation.com. The Monk community is the best one in the world of Warcraft, and we want to showcase it. Daikatsu, how can the dojo best reach us?
Well, you can follow the show on Twitter at monk_meditation. You can follow Chaiti at WowMonk. Air can be found at Airwalker. LeBlue is at Kagarai_LeBlue. I can be found at Daikatsu CTR, no underscore. Our producer, Adam, is at Geek of Random, and you can find our guest, Supercat, at Ask Mr. Robot, and calligraphy at Callie Monk with an I.
Thank you all for listening. You can watch us live Monday, March 9th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 100 UTC at twitch.tv/wowmonk. You can also visit monkmeditation.com for links to all the ways to watch and listen to the show. That will wrap up this episode of Monk Meditation.
May your brews be strong and your heart stronger.
Good night, everybody.
I rolled a 20.